Hey, welcome to another edition of Avidgolfer Magazine's Drive Time feature. This go around, we get to taste test a Porsche. Well, not just any Porsche. How about a Porsche Cayenne S Coupe? Yeah, Porsche got in the mix of the coupe versions of SUVs, or they call SAVs, sports activity vehicles. Lower roof line. If you want to think about this car, it's got power, it's got luxury, it's got handling. It's really got everything you want. Consider it a 911 that's just a little bit taller. How about that? I want to thank the gracious people at Grapevine Porsche for allowing us to use this vehicle for the purpose of this demonstration. So let's give this a long look. It's the 2020 Porsche Cayenne S Coupe. All right, let's ogle this beautiful beast. This is the Porsche Cayenne S Coupe, brand new. You'll see as we go more towards the rear, that's where the difference will be with the Coupe and the regular Cayenne version that's a little boxier. In the front, unmistakable Porsche. It's got the 4 individual headlights. At night, you can see those it really illuminates everything. Same nose. It actually has air scoops that are functional down here. They're not faux, just for cosmetics. They actually work. They actually help with the aerodynamics of the car. And everything else, again, unmistakable Porsche. Same roof line, or same hood line and everything. You'll see what the inside of the engine looks like. It's mostly covered up with plastic, so it doesn't give you that wow factor, but it's all there. It's 2.9 liter V6, 434 horsepower, 404 pound-feet of torque. It moves, folks. It really scoots. All right, let's go down the flanks of the car. You'll see right here, these are 21-inch rims. These are an optional upgrade, about $2,100. They're not so big that the ride gets rough. I think they look great. They're just enough. You can get 22s, which I think you're starting to get to the limits of a comfortable ride. But they look great against this Dolomite metallic silver. Almost has a bluish tint to it. I like it. Shows up great in sunlight, looks good at night. And there's just enough black trim to offset the silver, which looks good. As you move more towards the rear, the roof line here is the big point. The roof line is what makes this the coupe version, because it slopes down more considerably than a Cayenne, the regular model, which is again a little more boxy-like. This is only lowered by 20 millimeters, about half, 3/4 of an inch, but it looks design-wise like it's a lot more. Now, does this impede your rear seat headroom? Surprisingly, maybe not so much. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Back here, you have not 1, not 2, but 3 spoilers. Do you need that many with a Porsche? Why not? The more the merrier. And you'll see how one actually moves back and forth. You can't see it now because it's invisible. It's all intertwined with the body. But I'm going to show you here in a second how that comes up. You can do it manually, or it'll raise at 56 miles an hour. Okay, as we take a peek at the rear, it's a little more updated, a little more streamlined. You have one continuous light, goes across the back. Quad exhaust. Always love that in a car. It just shows that it means business. And with 434 horsepower, this Cayenne S Coupe means major business. Okay, I was telling you earlier about 3 different spoilers. You have one here, you have one that was retractable, and you have a little lip right here. Now, what's interesting about this, normally there's no air that passes through these, almost like a sun shield for SUVs. This one actually has vents underneath, and the aerodynamics keeps the car pushed down a little bit. So that helps. And then when the retractable spoiler goes up at 56 miles an hour, that's another one. And then the third one is this lip. I love it. I love gadgets. I love stuff. And again, you can keep it down, up whenever you want, do it manually or automatically. Now, if we go to the trunk, now everybody wonders about a coupe, that you're probably getting a little bit less storage room than the normal shaped SUV of a brand. Porsche is no different. This is 5 cubic feet less than a normal Cayenne. Not a deal killer. Again, you can get the full bag in. I can actually put it sideways. I didn't feel like messing around with the netting here. And then the rear seats do retract, they do fold down, so you get about 60 total cubic feet of cargo space. You know what? That's plenty for a Porsche. I mean, anything more than a day bag is more for a Porsche. So this is really good. This is a good kind of sweet spot for cargo space. All right, as great as the exterior is, the interior is going to surprise you in a most good way. So the rear seats, again, it's about 5 cubic feet smaller in cargo space than the normal Cayenne, but it's more than enough, I think, for typical travel. I mean, you're not going to put a bunch of stuff in here, but it has enough room. And if you need some extra room, this is real interesting. The lever here, instead of being on top, is down on the bottom, on the side, and that just folds down. And it does it on the other side too. It's a 60-40 split rear seating to fold. This will give you about 60 cubic feet of cargo space. Again, for most people, that should be enough. Otherwise, you just get a truck, right? Just get a big old pickup. So you put that back, and I can also recline this a little bit. So I can actually make it farther back than normal. So that's kind of cool. But here's the big thing as I get in. So the big worry about coupes with an SUV is you worry about the roof line. So this is about 20 centimeters lower than the normal Cayenne, and you would think that would compromise the back seat headroom. Not necessarily so, because what they also did, they lowered the rear seats by another inch. So I'm about 5'10". I have that much room, not bad. And it's very comfy. Again, I can recline it if I want. The leg room is incredible. So what Porsche did is they gave more backseat room comfort for the passenger and with a smidge less cargo space. I'll take that trade any day. That's good stuff. So you can also put down the rear seat, put down this rear console right here. And this basically just has some more cup holders in it. Nothing crazy, and an armrest. This has the bench option, which doesn't cost anything. We can actually get 3 people in here. The other one is normally just the 2 bucket seats. So if I go in the middle, again, pretty good. In fact, this might be one of the more comfortable middle seating arrangements in anything, because normally there's a big hump there. I could sit back here, and I got a headrest, I got everything, I got a sunroof. Looks really good. One deal about this sunroof is it's fixed. You cannot open it for any reason. It does have a sunshade, but you can also eliminate it and get the lightweight sport package, which basically changes out the glass, puts in carbon fiber. It's all dark, but it's also a lot lighter too. So one thing Porsche gives you is a lot of choices. All it does is cost you money, which is not necessarily a bad thing for the Porsche customer. You have some controls back here. I can heat up the seats back here, which is always nice. I can change my ventilation, the temp. I can keep it on auto. I can sync it up, and it does have some USB ports down there too. So for a back seat, pretty good, pretty decent storage back here. But again, the thing I'm most amazed about, a lower roof line, and my head is not hitting the top. That's a genius piece of decision making and design. It's good stuff, Porsche. All right, so we've looked at the exterior, we've looked at the back seat. Again, very surprising how much headroom there is and legroom back there. Again, I'll take that over 5 less cubic feet of cargo space. Take that every day. So let's get to the front part, because Porsche, boy, they have some fun with technology and instrumentation and everything else. So let's go through this. Let's start off with this. It's a clock, it's a digital clock down here with a rotating second hand. Now, I don't know if that's a chronometer or what. Normally you'd have a stop-start on that, but it's a different look. But it is upscale, because that's what upscale imports do. They tend to put a nice clock right in the middle of the dash there. So let's start off with the steering wheel. Nice feel, leather wrapped. Tell you what's interesting about this steering wheel is, I don't know if you know this, most people say you're supposed to keep your hands at 10 and 2. Supposed to be 9 and 3. Keep it at 10 and 2 and you get in a wreck, and the airbag pops out, it can break your forearms. So you keep it down here. This is where race car drivers have their hands too, by the way. But they have these nice little thumb indentations right here. I mean, it just feels perfect. It's the little attention to detail that goes a long way. As with other upscale cars, you have some controls on here on the steering wheel. You have volume. You can change the settings here. I guess I better fasten my seatbelt so I can show you what to do here. The door is still open, so anyway, doesn't matter. You can do it by phone, and now this down here is real interesting. Normally, you see it on the console or on the gear shift as far as what mode you want to be into, your drive mode. This has it right down here, so that's drive, that's sport, super sport, and then there you go, and economy. So well, that's his individual. Thank you, Train. So individual, you can tailor make your own setup if you'd like. The suspension, the steering heaviness, and also the how much they hold on to the RPMs to go a little bit quicker. And you have tilt. You have a tilt bit here, which is always fun. Where is that little puppy? There we go. You can go up, you can go down, you go in and out. What I like about this, a lot of drivers like to keep their hands somewhat lower, and this allows you to do that. Let's get to this, because this console here is way different than what I remember. The older models would have these set of buttons all the way down each side of the console. I mean, it seemed like there was like 40 of them. And they've simplified everything. So now they have everything is more touch. And let's go through these a little bit, and you can see how this, again, leather gear shift, that's nice. Here's what's interesting. So I have a volume control right here, and also have a volume control right here. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of awkward. That's, trying to get to that and all that if you don't want to use this. I mean, why would you have both? But if you're one of those guys that tends to rest his arm or hand on the gear shift, it's right there. So I think it's genius. If you go through the different stages, this is a nice screen for the navigation. Works really well. But let's go to the home screen and show you a couple things that are really kind of cool. If you go to the car, this is what I was showing you earlier with the spoiler. You can either do it manually or not. You can do that up and down. You can have the different drive modes right here. You can do it off-road, and then it will show you on gravel, mud, sand, rocks. It's all-wheel drive. This gives you the different displays. I can change the ambient lighting, which is really nice. I have it in topaz blue, which I kind of like. Climate control is real easy. Everything's right here. You have in comfort, and you can synchronize it. That always works. And you have some apps. So I can pull up the weather at any time I like. Shows you where it is here in Irving. I can go back to it. I can get a restaurant search at gas stations, hotels, parking. Parking is kind of interesting. Shows you where parking is. I guess that would help more if you were in a more urban setting. I'm not quite sure, but it's kind of interesting to say the least. And then you have assist here. So now this doesn't have a head-up display. This does not have surround camera, but it does have, what can I do right here? Pardon me. I can keep that active on or off, parking assist. It only has rear view, does not have front view. I can clean the camera if I want by hitting that, kind of interesting. You have sound, and that changes everything. You can move around the fader to do whatever, and this is fairly common in most cars. The tone, the system. It's a Bose surround sound system, which is real nice. And you can set down your own driver profiles, the vehicle settings, you have light visibility, how often you want to turn them on or off, comfort settings for the seats. It's got pretty much everything you want. This car is pretty dang cool. And well, it should be. It's six figures, right? This right here is an auto rest. So when I'm coming up to a stoplight or stop sign, I can just push in the brake and will keep the car in park until I'm ready to go again. And you'd be surprised how often that comes in handy. You have heated and cooled seats, nice. And you can also change the suspension settings. That's be the sportiest, and then you can go down to more of a comfort type level, and that's really cool too. So that's pretty much it for this. I mean, it's all touch screen. You do get some fingerprint smudges on it, so you want to wipe those off, and you need to keep a microfiber towel in it. But all in all, it's pretty good. Here's a place for your phone. It's not a wireless charger though, which I found kind of interesting. And it has CarPlay, Apple CarPlay if you want that. I think it has Android Auto as well. The storage in here is pretty good. 2 cup holders, decent glove compartment, and for the sides you have some good room for your knickknacks, gum, and whatever. So that's about it for the interior. I say it's a Porsche. Let's give this puppy a ride, okay? This is the best part about this car. As much as it has luxury and much as it has just the best materials, and it's comfortable, Porsche is all about driving. So that's what we're gonna do. Give it a quick look-see. Hopefully we don't get any tickets. Again, this is the Cayenne S Coupe. They have a base one at about $75,000. They have one that's a turbo, and that's getting up close to 6 figures. And then they have a hybrid turbo, which is like, I don't know, 630 horsepower or something ridiculous. This has 434 horsepower, 404 pound-feet of torque, more than enough. It's a V6. But here's what's interesting. This is a 2.9 liter V6. The base Cayenne is a 3.0 liter, yet is 100 horsepower less. Go figure, right? So sometimes size doesn't matter. This has all-wheel drive. I showed you earlier all the settings. You can have it mud and rain and ice and snow and all that. And so that's really cool. And also has a different sports setting, so I can either firm up the suspension and the steering, or not, you know, or I can do it individually. So maybe I don't want as tight a steering, but I want better handling, and I want more of an RPM hold, so it scoots more. You can do that as well. So everybody has their own little peculiarities and their likes and dislikes. I love it when a car gives you those options. As I'm sitting here, the seats are very comfortable. This isn't even the highest upgrade seat. You can get one that has, this has heated and cooled temp, but it also can get massaging. That's an extra charge. You can also get more with side lumbar supporting. That's an extra charge. One thing you notice about Porsche, and most of the German manufacturers, is they'll give you a lot of options, but it's not free. It just depends what you want, and you can tailor make this any way you want. Has 0 to 60 in about 4.7 seconds. Again, more than fast enough for people I know. And I would consider this, as I said earlier, it's kind of like a 911 that's taller and actually has cargo space. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you need to drive around more than 2 people, if you need more cargo space, you carry around a bunch of golf clubs or whatever, go camping, whatever, this is the car to get. Now, it's a little more streamlined than the Cayenne, but it really has everything I'd want in not only an SUV, but even a car. So we'll see as we give this thing a pump it down a little bit. The one thing I wish it had a little more of is a little more exhaust note. I'm big on that. Sports cars should sound like a sports car. You can get that on this. It's the performance exhaust package, but Porsche is going to charge you $3,200 for it. Now me, I might pay that, just because every time I get in that car and I start it up, I want to hear that engine roar. That's like music to my ears. So I would do that, maybe do away with something else that's an option that I don't really care that much about. But again, it's your prerogative, and that's the beauty of Porsche. The brakes are great, very little fading. You can get upgraded brakes on that too. You can get the ceramic brakes, and you can get even, there's other brakes that might cost $9,000. But again, it's a Porsche, so you got to keep all that stuff in mind. So we give this thing, we'll get a quick little pop. So that sounds pretty good. And I have that only, now I'm going to put it in Sport Plus mode. Tightens everything up. That was pretty good. It doesn't have that crackle, that real loud roar to it, but that's just my personal preference. I mean, I don't want something crazy. I don't want to sound like a rocket ship, but that was just in comfort mode, in drive mode. As we'll accelerate going in Sport Plus, you can also use the paddle shifters. Again, everything about this interior feels upscale. There isn't hardly any plastic. Sometimes you'll get these paddle shifters that are plastic, and it kind of feels that way. This is pure metal. Everything is metal. This feels good. It's all double stitching. There's no cheapness to this car. I mean, it really feels like what you're paying for, and something to be said for that. So let's give this thing a rumble, and I'm going to pop it. Do this little S curve here. And this is a suspension that's, ooh, okay. Even with four-wheel drive, you got to really watch it a little bit. Wow, okay. That's pretty good. That is really good. So anytime you get on a back road, you want to punch it, it will deliver some smiles. Miles of smiles, I'll tell you. The steering felt really good, really bolstered up. The suspension felt good without being jarring. Again, these are 21-inch wheels, and I wasn't bumping around that much. It didn't feel like I was being jostled about, and so that's a win-win. I mean, you have nice looking wheels that fill up the wheel well, not so much that you need a kidney belt when you're driving on normal roads. This car's got the goods. It really does. Everything is simply laid out. The steering wheel feels great. Seating feels good, feels nice and supportive. You can drive this a long way without getting beat up, which is really good for a sports-oriented vehicle. So all in all, 3 thumbs up. 434 horsepower. Again, 404 pound-feet of torque. It's more than you need, but it's just about what you want, I would say, when you're looking at a car that bases at 88, and the way this car has been priced out tested, $108,000. And hard for me to find something I dislike about this. It really is the real deal. I mean, it's got really everything you want. I mean, it's even got backseat headroom. It's perfect. I really like it. Bravo, Porsche. And thanks again to Grapevine Porsche for the use of this car. This is good stuff. This is going to be a tough one to give back. Oh, by the way, forgot to tell you. 19 and 22, 18 and 22. If I'm on the freeway and I got it in comfort mode, I can squeeze about 25, 27 out of it if I don't punch it too much, which is pretty good. It's not bad. It's a high-powered V6, so you're going to lose a little bit of gas mileage, but I'll take the fun of the drive over the 1 or 2 miles per gallon you save with getting a lesser engine. So there you go. That's the performance side of this. That's why Porsche is one of my favorite brands. Well, there you go, folks. A good taste test of the 2020 Cayenne S Coupe. I love this car. The more I drove it, the more I felt at one with it. A little bit lower roof line, a little more sloping. It's got not 1, not 2, but 3 spoilers in the back. It drives like a Porsche. It handles like a Porsche, but with more cargo space. What's not to love? Now, the S version is kind of the Goldilocks in the middle. It's 434 horsepower versus 335 or 561. Bases at 88,000. This one tested at 108. And you can check it out at Park Place Porsche in Dallas and Porsche Grapevine. And I want to thank Porsche Grapevine again for the use of the vehicle. Check that out in the May issue of Avidgolfer magazine. You can always check out the digital version, myavidgolfer.com. Thanks again for watching.